The National Archives, the agency, has been in the news lately. Most recently, the committees investigating the Hunter Biden's business have reached out to the National Archives, and there have also been lawsuits requesting emails of then Vice President Joe Biden's correspondence with his son. What can you tell us about the emails in your possession at the National Archives?
Well, I can't tell you anything about those emails in particular, but we are following the process that's outlined in the Presidential Records Act of 1978. Very clearly lays out the process in which we are able to share those records. We call them special access requests with members of Congress, chairmen of committees, and we are engaged in that process. I met with Chairman Comer. We had a very good meeting in which we were able to outline that process, and he understands that we are following it, and we will be following the law so that those records can come to Chairman Comer within the dictates that are allowed in the law.
What does the law say about the timing of release of those emails? And he also said that many of the information was redacted, and he wanted it unredacted. Explain why to the American people those emails would be redacted.
Well, there are provisions within FOIA. I believe that those emails were released under previously under a FOIA request, and there are provisions of FOIA which would cause them to be redacted. It might be things like people's personal names or information, but there are several provisions under FOIA. Under the law, under the Presidential Records Act, after the National Archives does a search and determines what records would be responsive to the specific request from, for example, a chairman of the committee, then we have to notify the president of whose administration those records come from, as well as the current president, the incumbent president. In this case, President Obama, that would be for Vice President Biden's records. And then, of course, President Biden himself is the incumbent president. And then there is at least a 30-day period in which they have time to review those records. And then we enter a period in which we are able to hopefully provide access and request to the chairman of the committee or whoever is asked for them under a special access request.
And you're saying the agency is complying and within that timeline?
We are 100% complying. It is not our timeline to set. Remember, the timeline is set by the incumbent president or the former president. And so we have to follow those timelines, and that's in the law. But we are getting them the records so they can review them and be in compliance, absolutely.
Any concern that this is a personal correspondence between a father and a son? What consideration is given to that?
Well, what the records that would be responsive under the Presidential Records Act are presidential records, which would mean they are records in which any president is executing his or her duties, constitutional duties, their ceremonial duties. Personal records would not be responsive to a Presidential Records Act request.